Guys, are we live? I'm not, sorry, I wasn't hearing anything. All right. Welcome back. It's just about 20 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock. It's a Now Morning Show here on a TTT. Of course, we're working from home, but we're about to check in with the Taxi Drivers Network, the TNT Taxi Drivers Network. Unfortunately, they are not able to work from home because they still have to go out and do what they have to do, a very physical and interactive job that they have. So let's say good morning to President of the network, Mr. Adrian Acosta. Good morning to you, Mr. Acosta.
Morning, ma'am. Morning to the viewing audience.
Thank you so much for joining us. So we really invited you because we're trying to figure out what's happening with the taxi network, because we're getting some increases in fares, as much as $5 increase in fares. And the public is saying it's really unfair. Why are you all doing this? Aren't we all supposed to bear the brunt of the shortfalls?
Well, what I can tell you, ma'am, right, while it might be unfair to the traveling public, it's unfair to us too, because taxi drivers has been a downward spiral for the longest while. It started from the four gas increase that the government put in place. Then it came down to they took away a seat from our vehicle for up to now. We don't know what's the reason for that. It came down to the percentage of passenger when this whole COVID situation started, because we started at 50% last year, right? And then we had a meeting with the persons in authority, such as the Minister of Works and Transport, the Minister of Health, and somebody in high authority in the police service, explaining to them that the 50% capacity that they have given to us is very strenuous on us. And if it is that they do not do something to readjust it to maybe about 65 or 70%, we will have no choice but to adjust our fares to at least help us to make a dollar to take home to our family.
Now, Mr. Acosta, here we are again, the argument about, getting that almighty dollar, which I understand. I understand that for a lot of people, it's very difficult. But as Raucus, Carrie, and I were saying before, when we were chatting with each other, is that there are people who haven't earned a cent since last year, March. Why is it that the taxi network can't bear the brunt of, the shortfall? Why not? Everybody else has to be doing it for those of us who've been affected by the pandemic.
Well, at the end of the day, we have a high maintenance vehicle to keep on the road. Whilst the traveling public may want us to take the burden on our shoulders, we also have a high maintenance vehicle to keep on the road. Plus, we also have to mind our families and pay our bills, because the government didn't say no light bill, no water rate, no this and no that, right? So we still have to juggle all these things with the great disadvantage that we are put at right now. Basically, we are outside here doing passengers a favor at this point in time, Ms. Lugo, because when we work whole day and we check our cash after, we basically just put in my gas in our vehicle at this point in time. So at the end of the day, as much as we would like to carry that load, it is very difficult to do that at this point in time.
Would you agree that it's also difficult for the person who has to sit into that taxi? That person who hasn't earned a dollar, who still have to pay the same light bill and water bill, cable bill as you have to as well. Do you understand and appreciate that taxi drivers don't sit in a unique position in terms of the loss of income?
You understand that very clear, Ms. Lugo. But at the end of the day, the individuals that we basically know that the individuals that are traveling, most of them that are traveling at this point in time are still employed, or they have gotten a few days to work. Either the employer have cut it in half, or they are working from home. Most of the people are working from home as far as I'm concerned at this point in time. But as I said, most of us already carry that load for a long period of time. I can tell you for my association where I work, we have never readjusted our fare in this whole COVID-19 pandemic from last year, March, to now. Right, but it has reached a position now where we are now discussing it, because the drivers that are outside here at this point in time, who are putting their life at risk, right, has reached a stage where they can no longer keep their vehicle on the road running at the price that we were running at since 2020. Right, I know that the individuals that are making the rules and regulations, they have the traveling public interest at heart. But at the end of the day, most of them have never lost a cent since 2020 to now.
All right, so let me challenge this argument, because we do have maxi taxis, their prices haven't gone up. We do have PTSD buses, their prices haven't gone up. What makes you so different from other drivers then that your prices had to go up?
Well, we don't class ourselves with PTSD, neither the boat, because the government subsidized PTSD and the boat with $50 million every year. We don't get no kind of subsidy from the government. And as far as I'm hearing from the maxi taxi section, right? If you want, you can talk to them at some point in time. They are now saying that some of their drivers are hiding because the bank is calling them to take back their bus, right? So it's very difficult out here to work with that kind of salary that we are carrying at this point in time. I understand the situation that you are saying some of the people aren't working, but at the end of the day, right, we have a high maintenance vehicle to keep, because oil has gone up. Every single thing else in this pandemic is rising, right? And nothing is, even in the grocery, as you know, right? And the price that we have been charging people, we have tried to hold on to that as long as we can. But it's becoming very difficult to continue to go with that fare structure.
Right. I know you mentioned the 50% capacity, but again, that's not something unique to taxi drivers. It's for transportation right across the board. You know, you mentioned the removal of subsidy from, you know, diesel, gasoline, but then again, that's not something that's unique to taxi drivers either. So I think the point for me is that we all have to be in this together. And I understand where you're coming from, because I mean, with a taxi driver, your earning for the day might be so much and no more. You know, and with a 50% capacity, it has to be difficult. But I think all of us are in a difficult situation at this time. And all of us are trying to make ends meet. There are very few people in my mind in the society who hasn't had some kind of negative effect as a result of the pandemic, you know? So I was hoping, and I think one of the arguments we're hearing is that I think it's a Sando to Port of Spain route that they're saying that the fare increase will not go back after the pandemic. While I'm hearing some routes are saying it will just be for the pandemic, some are saying, no, that money, that is going to stay. Where does the association stand on that? Is it in support of these fare increases staying in place, you know, indefinitely?
Well, I cannot speak on behalf of the Port of Spain to San Fernando Association. They have their own president, and they would have to make that adjustment when that time comes. But I can tell you about our association. I think part of the things that we are talking about is that we are going to have a systemic increase, right? Whatever we increase to, as soon as the government open up, according to that, we will decrease our fare according to that. So now it's 50%. Whatever we add to that, if the government open up to give us back 75%, we would send back down our fare to 75%. And if the government give us back our full 100, we are thinking about going back to the normal fare, what it was before. So that's how we will be doing. I cannot speak on behalf of any other association. They will have to do that for themselves.
But are all the taxi drivers on board with this, you know, decrease in fares once things go back to normal?
We are independent associations. I represent taxi drivers throughout the country, but we leave that independency to the association to make the decision whether or not they want to send back down their fares. I think it's, in my view, I think it's only reasonable that once the pandemic is over, or once the government open back up the economy, depends on the percentage, you send back your fare to adjust the suit to that. Because we do understand that people are under pressure, you know, but at the same time, we have a vehicle to maintain. And most drivers have, they are drivers who work for people. So if it is that you work for people, for somebody, and you have to make an installment to that individual, you still have to turn around and make money for you to feed your family. So it's a bit difficult to maintain the fare that we are at this point in time carrying.
I know that the government is considering, you know, adding taxi drivers to those people who get relief this time around. Again, I knew that there was a one-off payment in the last lockdown to drivers. If the government should do that, would that influence, you know, the fare increase or fare decrease?
Well, I don't really want to make a statement on that because I don't know the welfare of other taxi drivers, right? If I say anything about that, I might be putting other people in trouble. But personally, I have not heard of a lot of taxi drivers who have benefited from the grant that they gave out in the first instance, right? I think it was the $1,500 for the 3 months, right? I spoke to a lot of taxi drivers throughout the country, and nobody seems to have gotten that. Well, very few people have seemed to have gotten through that grant before, right? There are some who got through, but the most that I talked to say they did not receive any feedback from after sending in their documents for the grant, right? Some of them are renters and all too. They say they're sending their rental application form and they did not get anything either. Coming down to this one here that the government is offering at this point in time, the $1,500 by the $1,000, we did not receive any wording concerning that. So we are out here struggling just like everybody else to make ends meet.
You know, well, what can I say? I empathize with the taxi drivers as much as I empathize with the traveling public because the thing is that while the taxi drivers are increasing fares based on what they say are their economic hardships, is that the people who have to travel haven't gotten any increase in salaries. So it's like always passing it on to the consumer, but the consumer has not benefited any more than anybody else in this pandemic. There hasn't been any raise in salaries, so should we really raise the fares?
Well, as I said, we are businessmen, as I like to put it, right? And at the end of the day, we are struggling out here at this point in time. The government didn't make any recommendations to the taxi or the maxi industry to compensate us for any loss or give us a grant or anything such as that. I'm just saying, I think the maxi then got a $2,000 grant, I think it was last year. And from what I heard, half of those drivers did not get any, right? The taxi, they offered us $700. We believe that was not fair to us. Most of us did not take that, right? We thought that the government could have done a lot better than they did with that $700 because $700 to us is a weekend gas, right? We did a calculation as taxis from last year to now, right? What we have lost and still losing, it come up to close to our $50,000-$60,000, right? Most of the guys that I'm talking to are in arrears with their vehicle. The bank is looking for them. The owners of the vehicle looking for them. So at the end of the day, as much as we would like to remain and assist the traveling public, we are finding ourselves in hot water at this point in time.
Now, I know that H drivers normally, from my last conversation with you, don't really, drive too late at night. So has the SOE, the curfew, affected drivers anyway?
Yes, it has. I mean, our working hours are cut down. There are guys who work in the evening. They don't come out in the morning. So while their hours are cut down, they are now coming out earlier in the day now. So there's a lot more taxis on the stand and you are making less trip, right? Now you are spending about 5-6 hours to make one trip, right? I mean, it's weighing heavy on our pockets at this one time. So, we have no other choice or the stands that adjusted their fares. We have no other choice but to go down that road. As I said, where I work, we have been working from since 2020 to now with the same fare that we have been working with before. But it's reaching a position where we are now having discussions about it because we can no longer carry that burden.
All right, Mr. Acosta, I really hope that, as I said, it's a collective responsibility. If we all do what we can, then hopefully we can get back to some level of a normalcy in the shortest possible time. Until then, hold the fort and, continue to stay safe.
You too, Mr. Have a blessed day.
All right, thank you. Adrian Acosta there, TNT Taxi Drivers Network president, speaking to me about just how difficult it is for the taximen. And he's saying that at this point, they have to have the conversation about fare increase because with a 50% capacity, with the removal of the fuel subsidy, and of course, just what's happening with the pandemic, the curfew affecting everybody, that they have to consider raising those fares. All right, we're going to take a break and we'll be back with more on the Now Morning Show here on TTT. Stay with us.